Hello everyone, welcome back to another video on the channel. Today we're going to be talking about Season 1 of House of the Dragon, particularly the season finale, which has just aired tonight, and god do I love this show. And I will give a little preface of my experience with Game of Thrones thus far. I never watched the original series live as it was airing. I haven't read any of the books. I only binged the show right before the series finale happened. The only episode I'd seen live with real, reactions online was the series finale. I caught all of that live because I was able to binge everything right before it happened, and of course all that hate that show got, it didn't affect me as much because I was not invested for years and years from that show. But this is the first time that I have been week by week following the show, looking at all the reactions online, and god do I love this show so much, and just the conversations around it are so fun. Talking about this show has been one of my favorite parts of every single week. So this will be a spoiler review for this finale and for the season as a whole. So if you have not seen House of the Dragon, all 10 episodes are out for this season. I highly recommend it, and I cannot wait to get into this thing. Let's get into it. So let's talk about this finale first before I get into my overall thoughts. And this finale is one of my favorite finales that I've seen in quite some time, mainly because it really does take everything that this entire season has been building up to all to a head. And I think that these last two episodes, the episode 9 and episode 10, work really great as kind of like a two-part finale, because the last episode we got to see the Hightower end of things, the green, and it ended in a great way with Princess Rhaenys, flying off with that dragon, threatening to start this war, but she has that restraint to not do it, to go tell Rhaenyra. And now we get Rhaenyra's side of things. We get the Targaryen side, the black side of things, and this entire thing building up to the end of this episode, the start of the war, as we're going to see throughout the rest of this series, has been built up so perfectly, because again, these characters, this narrow sets of characters that we have introduced, that we've gotten so much character beats for, specifically with Rhaenyra and her entire family, with Matt Smith as Daemon, Paddy Considine as Viserys, and of course her relationship with Olivia Cooke as Queen Alicent. And just there's so many deep relationships throughout this entire show that have all been threaded so perfectly, to a point where we get this finale and we get to see everybody's perspective so well. Just to see the struggle that Rhaenyra goes through at the very beginning of this episode. And there's been 3 childbirth scenes in this season so far, and just like, no more. Please, for the love of God, for the rest of this show, I do not want to see any more childbirths. It is traumatizing. It is very, very disturbing and hard to watch at a lot of times because of how cruel this world can be. And to see her, have a stillbirth at the beginning of this episode, when Rhaenys, shows up, tell her the news that everything has gone down in King's Landing. The King Aegon is now king. Her father has died. There's so much trauma just all added onto her at once, and now she has that weight on her head of the potential crown, and she just goes into labor, and it goes bad, and she has a stillborn child, and it is just so disturbing and traumatic. And it's very sad because you've seen Rhaenyra throughout this entire show have that sort of fear of these sort of things because of her mother's death in the very first episode. And so following all the way till the end, we start this episode in that way, and just all that trauma all building up until this point, and just the pain that you see in her performance is so great. When Emma D'Arcy took over the role as Rhaenyra from Millie Alcock, everybody's very concerned with how they were going to be able to, take over this role, how they were going to be able to follow through with everything that Millie Alcock has set up throughout the first 5 episodes of the season. And now getting these last 5 episodes, specifically in this finale, when Rhaenyra gets that news that her son has been killed by the end of the episode. I know I'm kind of jumping around a little bit. When she gets that news, you see in Rhaenyra's eyes this just pain and this anger and this just call to action, that she had all this restraint throughout this entire first run of her performance, and that she has just blown the lid off the top. Who knows what she's going to do next? And I saw one tweet earlier today that says everything that she does going from this point on, Rhaenyra is 1,000,000% justified in all of it. And I tend to agree with that, because Rhaenyra has gone through so much pain, especially in this finale, that it's just it's so hard to put yourself in those shoes, but you can just really relate to her, and you can really feel that pressure just on her shoulders as she's going through all these different meetings about how they have all these different allies across Westeros, and you just see everybody just looking to her and not knowing what she's going to do next. It is just such a powerful performance, especially that final shot of this episode. Emma D'Arcy, give them all the Emmys in the world. They really do deserve it. And on the other side of that, you got Matt Smith throughout this entire show, who has been consistent throughout all 10 episodes. And let me tell you that Matt Smith as Daemon has been a roller coaster of a ride, because, when the show was coming out, I thought that Matt Smith was for sure going to be the villain of the show, the one that you're going to hate and the one you're going to root against the entire time. But he has such a more complex character than anybody else on the show, really, because every single time that he does something that you're rooting for, okay, Daemon, good job, you just did something great, he does something something to just piss you off, because at the beginning of this episode, when all the news breaks out and his plan clicks together immediately, he knows exactly what to do. But then when everything starts happening with Rhaenyra giving birth, and he just kind of goes off and starts doing things without her permission, and he's just like doing all these different things, and when they finally have a chance in this episode to talk to each other, and then he like starts to strangle her and starts to threaten her with different things, I just like, no, Daemon, I really want to like you. I really do. And I think his performance is incredible. But as a character, every time I start to like you, you do something that makes me hate you. And I think that is just a testament to his performance, because I think he is so strong in it, to where no matter what he does in this show, and I think that I'm much more on board with him than I'm, not on board with him, but every single time he's on screen, my eyes are just glued to him. He is so great in this show. His character is phenomenal. And with the back half of this season, we have had a lot of development with the kids in this show, because they've been growing up, from episode 6 on. We saw them as like younger kids, and they dealt with the whole strong thing with Rhaenyra's kids. And then of course you have Alicent and Viserys' kids being just the absolute worst people on the planet. I'll get to them in a minute, but you get to see them grow up slowly as they are recast over and over again over the years. And now we got to a point in this finale where you have Aemond, who, let me just say, he aged like incredibly well. He looks so old for his age. I think he's supposed to be like 16. He does not look 16 at all, but I think they have a great actor playing this role, because his face is just like, it's so pointed. He just feels like he's always thinking. He's a very smart character, because when it happened a few episodes ago, when he went out to get the dragon, and he got the biggest dragon in all of Westeros over the other kids, and he may have lost an eye for this, but it was so worth it. He was so smart in doing that, and you get to see the payoff of that in this finale. And his conflict with Rhaenyra's kids throughout the past 3 episodes, this guy is just like, God, I hate him so much. But when we have, Rhaenyra telling her 2 kids, you're going to go over here and you're going to go over there, and we're going to try to build allies around Westeros to try to, surround King's Landing. And their plan is a very smart plan. I know they're going to be able to try to cut off all these different access points. There's a lot of question with whether CORLYS is going to be on Rhaenyra's side or not, because of everything that happened with Rhaenyra. And so you have all these complicated things, but when everything seems to click together, when she sends out her kids, because that's going to be faster and more effective than the Ravens, and Aemond had beat them to it, and she's like, oh gosh, what is this guy going to do? Because it's the younger son that is going to this place. It's a very incredibly tense scene where he's just trying his best. He says he's not here to fight. He's here to do this offer, and when he's done with that offer, he just wants to get out of there. And when he gets on that dragon, and you see that the other bigger dragon, I don't know the names of the dragons yet. I think of all the names. I got the people down. I'll need to rewatch the season to get the dragon names down, but when he sees that the other dragon is gone, you're just like, oh no, you don't know what is going to happen. And to see that entire scene with the dragons flying around in the sky, through the rain, up above the clouds, and you get to see, the bigger dragon behind the other one, like totally How to Train Your Dragon style, which is why I have this poster up. I've seen all the memes on Twitter already. It's all great, but it is entirely just terrifying to see the scope and the scale that this show is hopefully going to go throughout the later seasons. And I really do wish that this show looked as good as Rings of Power did. I do think the visual effects in this show is solid. It is pretty good, especially with the dragons in this finale. I think a lot of the money went to that, but I think some of the green screen stuff can look a little bit iffy, but for the most part, it is believable. And like I said, in this finale, if that's any testament to the scope and scale of what this show is going to be in the future seasons, I can't wait for that, because the original show didn't have a lot of dragons. We got a lot of that towards the end of it, and it was cool. This one scene was just incredible. It's such a small little piece of the future that we're going to get, and I cannot wait for that. Now all the pieces are set on the playing board now. We have everything that happened with the Hightower side, with the Greens in the last episode, with Aegon being crowned as king, and that entire sequence. We have the alliances now set in stone. We know that the Starks are probably going to be on I hope they're going to be on Rhaenyra's side, and then we have that other house going to be on the Hightower side. We get to see that CORLYS and the Velaryon fleet is also going to be on Rhaenyra's side. All the puzzle pieces are put into place, and then of course we have that death, Aemond killing the son of Rhaenyra, that is going to start this all-out war. Everything is in place now. I really am glad that the showrunners decided to take 10 episodes to explore this storyline, because they said that they really slowed things down. And when they say that, I'm like, how fast were they going to skip through all of this? Was it going to be like a Lord of the Rings type, we're going to montage through a lot of these things? Probably those first 5 episodes would have never happened, or maybe they would have been condensed into like 8 episode of them as kids, but then, focusing more on the adults and then getting into the war faster. I'm so glad they took their time to spend an entire season developing these things. And honestly, I could have spent more time developing these things, because the writing of the show was so good. I don't need to get into the war immediately. I think some of the casualties in this time jumps was definitely the crab feeder storyline in the first half of the season. I think that could have, been dived into a little bit more. I think some things with that, the stepstones, we didn't really get to know. We know it's very important for the upcoming war, but we didn't really get to see a lot of the situations that were happening there, especially with CORLYS in the past few episodes with the crab feeders earlier on in the season. And then we had the whole Lena thing with Daemon. We really didn't get to see a lot of her. I really like that episode that she, she was giving birth and she was burned by her dragon. I really like that. I wish I cared more about those characters, because we're skipping through all these things. We're doing kind of the bigger moments in these characters' lives without really getting to know some of these side characters. And I just really think that the Velaryon storyline in general has been kind of in the background, and I think that the actors are so great. I really like the actor who played CORLYS, and I would have been so upset if they killed him off screen in the past couple of episodes, but he was back in this one. I really liked, trying to see where his allegiance lies, and I don't know how trustworthy he's going to be, but I'm glad that he's on Rhaenyra's side. So I kind of wish we got more of the Velaryon side of things, and I wish in the future we get more of that stuff. I know we had I think the writing change with Laenor's character. He was supposed to actually be killed by Rhaenyra. I'm glad he's actually alive somewhere. I doubt we're ever going to see him again, because that storyline was changed from the book. So I just think that we could have spent more time with those characters. But besides that, I think the time jumps worked a lot better than I thought it was to make a very, very fast-paced, entertaining show throughout all 10 episodes. I don't think there was a single weak link in any of the episodes. I think the biggest challenge for the show was that episode 6, that first time jump where we get to see the new cast, and I think that even that, I think some people kind of rejected that idea at first, but I think on rewatch it works really, really well. I think that the show, like I said, doesn't have a weak link. It's been strong throughout, and I've just loved experiencing this show, especially with everybody else in the world watching it week by week with me. Now, I know there's probably so much more that I can talk about with this episode and with the season as a whole, but like I said, in general, I've loved watching this show. I cannot wait to see it back. I hope it doesn't take 2 years, but maybe it will be 2 years until we get a season 2. Same thing with, the Rings of Power. I have been loving so many shows recently, and, Andor is going on right now, so at least I have that still, but I'm really going to miss this show. This was my Sunday night show. I'm going to try to catch up on The Walking Dead now since this one is over. So if you guys did enjoy, this season, definitely comment down below all your thoughts on this, and please don't spoil anything. I know that the books, a lot of people are fans of the books. I haven't read the book, so I don't know what we can expect ahead. I don't want to know what to expect for what's going on in the future of this show, so definitely don't spoil it for anybody else, but let us know all your guys' thoughts in the comments down below for this season in general. So if you enjoyed this review, make sure you guys subscribe to the channel and check out other reviews on my channel like Black Adam. I just reviewed VHS 99, which is a part of my 13 Days of Halloween series, which I'm going to be reviewing a bunch more horror movies throughout the rest of this month, so definitely subscribe to see more reviews just like those ones, and I hope to see you all in my next one.